What's going on, guys? So I'm going to do a bit of a different type of Transformers review today. It's actually going to be a bit more of a comparison, and I'm going to be trying to wrap up to a point by the end of this about the Siege line from, Hasbro. And possibly a little bit of the Earthrise maybe wrapped in there because it is kind of the continuation of the same line. So as the title would suggest, we're going to be going over the different Megatrons with the exclusion of the G2 exclusive one, because it doesn't fit this, because it doesn't look like the G1 version. So I'm going to be going over the different G1 versions, and instead of doing it as a normal video, I took pictures to compare the different things. So we're going to go over the standard Siege model, we're going to go over in the 35th anniversary model, and then the new Netflix version. And that's the one we're really going to be talking about for comparison's sake. So I'm going to be doing this in a voiceover style, so we'll see how well this works out. But this is a video that I've been wanting to do for a while, and in fact I took pictures legitimately back at the beginning of May. It's just taken me this long to get around to it. So let's go ahead and get this started. We'll start off with the regular Siege Megs. So first up, with the regular Siege Megatron, we've seen this guy before. And, he's got the basic weathering and decent paint job all the way around. Though, of course, with this version, it's more like he rolled in some doo-doo than anything else. Very splotchy and things like that. People cleaned it up, even myself. Had damage on the chest. But the paint apps are still minimal in detail, while close to G1 is not great. And then in tank mode, we see a lot more of the battle damage, which is really how they kind of plan these things out. And in this case, I left off the extended barrel. And the color is pretty close with the light grays, the black, and stuff like that. And then, of course, the damage done. Now, with the extended barrel, which I had to remember how to put on, I can say that his seems to have the best overall detailed paint job with the silvers and the reds and the blacks versus the rest. Now, the 35th anniversary cell shaded version is a very interesting one, as it's super light gray, almost white. Even the details on the sword are very different. And then, of course, adding cell shaded detail as you go around it, including on the barrel of the fusion cannon. And looking up close, you can see a lot more of the cell shading. It looks very close to how he looked in one of the first episodes or even the movie. And even the Decepticon emblem is a brighter purple. And then even in tank mode, you can see that the cell shadedness goes pretty well across the board. But overall, still looks like it walked almost off the screen, but very different from the first one. But they are putting on more paint apps because all of the cell shading are paint. And then the barrel, even on the extended gun, is also cell shaded to look more interesting. And you can see a little bit more of it here. But all of the rest of the detail is gone, which to me makes it a little strange. Now, moving on to the newest one. He's battle damaged. He's mostly painted head to toe with either a gunmetal or a silver. There's only a few instances of bare plastic. Even on the back, you can see faded paint jobs, almost airbrushed. And even on the actual fusion cannon. Now, looking at him up close, his face is silver, his head is gunmetal, he's got scars, scrapes everywhere. Even on the legs, it looks like there's a lot more airbrushing and paint done everywhere. You can see here the lights on the front of the tank are even painted. The damage and stuff like that does roll across the whole thing in a very similar manner. Most of the time the red is picked out the same, but overall, he's actually got a very close to G1 cartoon aesthetic, but mixed in with some real battle damage and weathering. Then added the extended cannon onto the end of it. You can see that it has a big deal of silver or gunmetal painted on it, and the red details have returned, which is a little bit different from the regular one. Now, comparing all three together is the really important thing. So you can see what goes from almost bare plastic to a lot of paint to almost being completely covered in paint. Even the cannons here, you can see the difference from bare plastic to the cel-shaded paint to the one at the end, which has a big smudge of gunmetal. Even from a different point of view, if they had painted the entire fusion cannon with that gunmetal paint, it would have looked fantastic. And then, gave it a wash, so to speak. It would have looked amazing. And even with the sword cannon, you see the first one has the most detail with all the extra reds and silvers and everything like that. The middle one has virtually none, but with the cel-shadedness. The one on the end is somewhere in between. A lot more paint, a lot more coverage. But then it comes down to just, personally I like the first one better. Tank modes comparatively, the first one just looks more like a toy. The one in the middle looks like it came out of the cartoon. And then the one at the end looks somewhat realistic and something of what I would consider a real Transformer. So let's get down to the end point here. The first one, everybody wanted more. It's kind of regarded as just not great, especially with the weathering. Everything from Siege, the first waves, was not great. But then the 35th anniversary comes along, showing us that they can indeed throw paint on it when they want to. Now, odds are all of them are almost identical, probably with some masking issues or some paint issues, because usually probably digital paint. But the fact that the Decepticon emblem is ever so slightly different, at least with different color, makes it a little different. Even painting out the details on the chest is a little bit different. But ultimately, it shows that when they try, Hasbro can put out a better product. Now, it's a little bit more on the nose, with the whiter color scheme. And, it looks a little bit more like it's right off of the G1 screen. But it's the final one that makes the biggest difference to me. I think that Hasbro all along has had the ability to really paint these figures the way they could. Even if it's all digital, or hydro dipped or whatever you want to call it, or whether it's tampographed on for the most part. The Netflix editions across the board are all, for the most part, painted significantly. And I don't mean the detail. I mean the fact that most of the plastic is covered in paint. Now, eliminate maybe some of the damage details and stuff like that, and it actually is rivaling some third-party Transformer companies in their paint job. And if Hasbro had it in them all along to paint these this way, it's kind of a slap in the face that we had to wait for the 4th iteration of this particular model or figure to get one that is a good representation. Now, here's a bigger slap in the face. The original one is in the $30 to $35 range for the most part. I believe they were all roughly $30 to $35. The 35th anniversary one was also in that range, $30 to $35. If not just a hair less if you caught it on sale. The thing about the Netflix one is that it costs the exact same amount, but comes with more paint and 2 extra figures. It comes with the extra weaponizer and then the just minicon partner or whatever they technically call it. So that's adding on an extra $15 of value to the entire package, but selling it for essentially the same cost as a Megatron figure by itself. So it makes you wonder, what are they pricing the regular ones for if the Netflix variations can cost less, in theory? Regardless of which one they are, as long as they've come with more stuff, which seemingly most of them do, but Megatron is kind of a standout. It's kind of the point that Hasbro has basically really been ripping us off with the first runs of most of these waves. Even if you see the it's not refractor. I forgot what they called him in this version. It's the blue and red version with almost like the original G1 toy version of refractor. That is a fantastic paint job. And it costs the same as a normal one. So they could give you more for, in fact, less money, but they don't. So it comes down to the point of why a lot more people feel the need to go to third party when Hasbro doesn't do the same things. But now Hasbro's proving they can on a mass retail level. But they waited until the third or fourth iteration of a release to do it, even while they have a new line entirely coming out. And that's the part that really gets under my skin. Like, they knew that this actual show was coming a long time ago. They just had to wait on the details, I guess. So they could have given us better paint all along, and they chose not to. 35th anniversary proves that at that point they could give us better paint. This one proves even beyond that it could make it look fantastic. Even if they took the battle damage away, gave it a full even paint job without even like any of the scrapes or anything like that, and I bet people would feel that they were getting their money's worth. And that's what I feel like we need. It's like, if they're going to charge us more for a figure like they have been doing ever since these new lines have started popping up, why aren't they giving us our money's worth? And now they are, but in a line that is a year old. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I know it's Hasbro, and everybody could be, it's just Hasbro, that's what they do. Yeah, kind of. But even the new Earthrise line is proving that they can do better. They can add way more paint apps. They can add more engineering. But the cost went up just a hair. Or in the case, some of the size scales make no sense. They're giving you a quote-unquote deluxe figure that's in fact a legend scale that just comes with some stuff. That's a ripoff. But if they gave it a full paint job, like a full real paint job, maybe it'd be worth more. Maybe we'd be willing to pay almost third-party money if Hasbro gave us something along those lines, in the chug line, so to speak. So that's kind of my point. That's why I wanted to do this comparison. It wasn't even about like the new Megatron coming with the stuff, because whoop-de-doo, that's not what I wanted to show off. But just the idea that they could do this and they chose not to really gets under my skin and makes it hard for me to want to continue buying the lines. But at the same time, they're getting better, so it's hard to be angry. You know, it's a real mixed message. Yes, they can do it. No, they don't choose to do it. So, let me know what you think down below. Which of the Megatrons is your favorite? If it's G2, then your opinion's invalid because it doesn't fit into this argument. But also, why didn't they give us the alternate toy version of the G2 that came in the green and the purple instead of the white and the green? Where's that version? I want to know. So, I'll catch you guys on the next review, and remember, as always, to keep on nerding.